Hi all.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Thirsty Thursday P-Day. How are you? Hope everybody's
Yay.
doing good. How you guys doing?
Yeah.
Great.
Good. Good.
Glad to be here.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Miss
Glad to
you
be
all
social.
last week.
So we have a super exciting show for you guys today, remote learning, and we are talking all about screen time. So we had a lovely conversation last week all about video conferencing, and this week we are going to jump into, now that we are using the screens a lot more, how does that affect everybody, and what's the nitty gritty, as Adriana said, about the screen time. So we'll start with our wow moments. Who would like to go first?
Wow moments.
Oh.
I have a wow moment. So I've been working with grade 2 for Google Meets, and we have moved from the beginning of the week of 15 minutes of mute your mic, mute your mic, mute your mic, mute your mic, leave the meeting, leave the meeting, leave the meeting, to at the end of the week where we're like, you need to unmute your mic so we can hear you. We need to unmute your mic so we can hear you. That's lovely. Okay. Oh, everybody's left the meeting. Oh, okay. Meeting's over. So from one extreme to another, they love it.
Well, I had been, I was in a very unusual situation when the school closed because we were preparing for a play, and I still had hope week by week that we were still going to do it. And I, I went ahead and switched. We're like giving up on the plays, and I'm really sad about that. But I went ahead and switched. But basically, that means that this week has been my first week of experiencing what a lot of people, like all over my school, but also all over the world, have already experienced. Even though my school's been closed for a while, because I had student directors running the show in their own individual classes, which was really great for that. But then this is the first time I've been running the show, and it's kind of funny that it is very intimidating, to think, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle this class on my own? But it's just kind of funny that I've been in a school closed situation for so long and haven't been exposed to that. But it went well. I had a really great class today, where I got to experience my worst fears not happening. So that was wow.
It's really too bad about the play. I'm really sorry about that. But you're right.
You.
There's loads going around. I know our school in Jordan too, we had ours canceled. So I'm really sorry, Eric.
Thanks. Yeah. I've had this play. Every 10th grade class since I started has been doing their own play, their own adaptation of Macbeth. And so we've done 17 up to this year. And there were going to be an even 20 before I go and become an ed tech coordinator next year. And nope, staying at 17. So, yeah.
Mind you, perhaps what you could do, because, you could perhaps do scenes or something and put it together as a video.
Yeah, we went through some options, but it's just like it would just be a real hard turn, and we've spent so much time that it would be hard to justify academically anymore.
Sure.
So yeah, I checked all of the classes and I left it up to them. They've taken a tremendous amount of responsibility in the process. And yeah,
I guess scripting becomes so much more important. Yeah, the scripting process and storyboarding.
The process, it's all about the process, and so it's really sad not to have the product, but the fact is that the process is valuable in itself, and this is a time when you see that.
Video would be perfect for things like that, where you collaboratively can work on video.
Yeah, if we'd started with that aim, that would have been great. But just to take a hard turn into video kind of options at this point, yeah.
So if I may share my wow moment of the week, it was that I've experimented last week Friday with breakout rooms, and you know that it's a Zoom function. But if you just create a Word document and create 5 meeting rooms in Google Meet, and you point them into these meeting rooms, it's nothing else but a Zoom breakout room. Cool. So to just give one background information about why I have again switched to Meet rather than Zoom is because of some security issues I was notified of. And so the wow moment in Meet was that a student told me in a Scratch class, which I was thinking about James a lot, that he has finished the task, even though I didn't assign it as homework, and we will probably need 1 or 2 more sessions to finish this program. It's like a little shooting program. And he said he's finished, and because I had the experience with breakout rooms, I told him, okay, you have your own room and you give support to students who need support programming. And funnily enough, I was a bit weary and cautious because he's a very playful 6th grader. And to cut the story short, it worked out greatly. He had 2 visitors in his support room and he helped them and he didn't misbehave. And I was really, really impressed by that.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is really exciting that you were able to use some breakout rooms with video conferencing. Well done, Ralph.
Yeah, I was weary how I could stay in control, and I messed up with the tabs. It's a sad thing that you can't rename tabs.
Yeah.
Like I messed up in which tab is what room now. So I figured out that also technically sometimes you don't get the audio back if you rejoin a room or if you rejoin the tab. If you have 3 tabs open. So I noticed that you rather close it down and rejoin, and then audio everything will go.
Gotcha.
Interesting. Okay, great. All right, James, Gary, who's next?
I think I want to big up Gary, to be honest. I mean, he's done a fantastic job for the Philippines. And Seti and I did a session each. He did live coding in terms of and apparently everybody's been on it, and I think it's been brilliant. Yeah. But for me, the wow moment was a bit more personal. Was that after ages of not doing much Scratch programming, I did some real Scratch programming, which was a lot of fun, and made a video on Sunday, which I really enjoyed doing. And it's such a fantastic product that just doesn't get used enough by elementary teachers, and it's perfect for distance learning. But there is a bit of a, for some people, there's a bit of a challenge to get in there. But once you've done it, the kids really engage, and it's so much more interactive than something like PowerPoint or Keynote or even slides.
Cool.
Who else uses Scratch at their schools for coding or other platforms? Just out of curiosity? No?
I haven't, but I hear enough about it. I might get into it next year when I'm doing, the ed tech stuff.
Yeah, we use CS First and Applied Digital Skills. So there's with the CS First coding, we roll those out so students can choose different lessons, and there's beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So we just finished like an 8-week music video unit, and they're doing independent projects now. So CS First is really awesome if you guys ever want to try it out. I think Gary's used it. Gary, that way.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, let me share my...
I was a bit startled by the user management because they don't want to get shared emails or stuff. So it was CS First. But the curriculum is awesome.
Yeah. It's a little bit like Applied Digital Skills. So you can set up, like as a teacher, you can set up, it looks similar. The user interface is a bit similar to Google Classroom. So you would set up like a class for those students, and they would have their own usernames, and then you can watch their progress and see like which part of the course they're at, and if you need to go and help them and give them support. So yeah, it's nice. Okay, Gary, you are up.
Okay, my wow moment. Well, the past days is being with everyone, not here in Thursday, but being my guest for Philippine Edu webinar. And the wow moment there is that aside from your great sharing, my subscribers went more than doubled.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes. And during my session with James, it was 20 plus.
Wow, that's more views than we get for this.
Now it's already our session, James, it's 368 views.
Wow. Nice.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. So that's my wow moment. So I think basically what we need, because of this pandemic, a lot of teachers are looking for resources, and they want some videos who are in their native language, because they can search a lot of resources like set this video, but they don't really connect. So that's why I created a lot of videos in Tagalog. Sometimes I speak in English. That is why with my sessions with Georgina, I tried to speak in Tagalog, interpret what she's saying, but it's difficult for me to interpret everything. I don't know. It's difficult to change language and then you try
Language
to
switching is
yeah,
hard, right?
yeah, it's so hard. But I'm thankful for Regina, for Seti, for James, for a lot of people who helped me through the Philippine Edu webinar. So my wow moment is that realizing that we teachers, educators from the Philippines really need someone who is also Filipino who can teach them the different tools. There you go.
Yeah, congratulations, Gary. In fact, my wow moment for today was also to say for Gary. So James kind of stole my limelight. But yeah, no, that's okay. That part wasn't planned. So, so yeah, it was to shout out to Gary. He really inspired me. So we are going to actually host a one-day blitz in the Arabic language for the Middle East. It made me think like, yeah, everybody's always watching our English content, but the majority of people here in the Middle East speak Egyptian, especially, or Arabic, sorry, not Egyptian, Arabic. And so especially all of the local government schools that are just starting to roll out with Google for Education, they really need all of that fresh content, that getting started content in Arabic. So thank you for the inspiration, Gary. And if any of you want to hear what Arabic looks like, stay tuned for a post about that. It'll be either this coming Saturday or the following one. So if you're watching this show and you'd like to get some Arabic content, stay tuned.
Great, great. Nice to hear that.
All right, so let's get started with today's show. So it's all about screen time. So let's just start by sharing what our idea of screen time is. What is it to everybody here?
Normal. I mean, when I was a programmer, then I was on the computer for 8 hours a day, and then I'd come home and I'd be like, oh, okay, computer, and so it's kind of like that, as a teacher now again, before, like when I started teaching, then I gained 2 centimeters, and I was standing and in front of the class all the time, and then I'd go home and be like, oh, computer, but now it's back to the same schedule it used to be, and I know that's not recommended, but I don't know. I'm kind of used to it. So
I'm with Eric on that one.
Yeah, I follow there as well.
Yeah, same here.
So what does screen time include? Like, is screen time just watching one sort of screen? Do you think it includes many different screens? What do you guys think?
Well, I think it's more screen time means using your mobile device, your laptop or desktop or computer, and like your television, watching a movie or something. It's all considered as screen time. But I heard that it's not good to spend a lot of time on the screen. But these days, what else can you do?
Well, the interesting comment there is it definitely matters what we do when we are looking at the screen. And
because I would say as well, it's not always, I mean, Adam's made a really good point there, where it's just can sometimes be the anticipation of being needed to be on screen. We had a conversation today with the IT tech. They are available 8 till 4. They're not necessarily in front of a screen the whole time, but if something pops up, they're on call, as it were. So, that in itself, you feel like, you're doing your job even when you're not sitting in front of a screen, because you might be needed at any particular time. So, it's not always in front of a screen all the time. It might be the anticipation that I am available. Anybody can reach out to me and bring me in, and I can help them.
Yeah, I love that point. And we have an amazing comment also from Flip Classroom Tutorials that screen time is not created equally. Are we consumers or are we creators? This is an excellent question. Yeah. It's later on my list, but we can definitely talk about it now. Absolutely. So what are we doing with the screen time and how is it beneficial? So if that's okay, we'll get to that a little later. We just wanted to basically shout out, like, why do you guys think that it's become more of a focus now in the recent weeks? So some parts of the world are in their like 8th, 9th, 10th week of remote learning. Some of us, like I'm in my 4th week, and some people are just starting in America their first week of online learning, remote learning this week. So why is it only now starting to come about a bigger issue on the social feeds? What do you guys think?
I mean, it's cumulative. It's like, you know, because we all have a certain tolerance, but then if anybody has a tolerance at all, they're going to be hitting it, you know, a few weeks in, too much. Because I mean, it's like the kind of thing you have to pry the kids off the screens, but at some point they're going to get their fill. You know, it's like you're like, don't eat all that ice cream, but then, you know, if you let the kids have as much ice cream as they want, you're like, eat that ice cream eventually, but oh my God, no more ice cream. And you know, it's just possible that they might even hit their limit, or even if they don't know that they've hit an important limit, they might be reacting to it on another level, that where it's showing up. That's just my first thought.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking up that challenge for ice cream, though. I'm willing to see whether or not I do have a tolerance level for ice cream. Yeah, I'll let you know next week.
And so what kind of feedback, guys, are you having? We're all in different schools. What kind of feedback are we receiving from parents, from teachers, from students about the screen time? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it too much? What are we getting from everybody?
I've had a couple of emails from parents asking for help because their child is not getting off the computer. They're not sure how much time they should be spending on the computer, and the relationship's a bit fractured because they're like, well, he says he has to be in this meeting, and then when I go past, he's playing Roblox at the same time as in the meeting, and you know, he says he needs it to chat, but he's just chatting with his friends. So the parents are worried that the relationship with the device has changed, and then they can't contain it or control it.
That's the main reason I don't want to use Line or any mostly privately used social chat application, and rather fall back to some school internal communication product.
I think the problem
I
is
don't rate Classroom because it doesn't tell parents directly what's going on. And I didn't rate Seesaw, but now I see that Seesaw has that value where, you know, parents are able to see a lot more about what work we're setting and what the school's expectation is, rather than, you know, taking it from their child.
More so than ever, parents can see what the students see in their classrooms by just looking over their shoulders, you know. So I agree that I think there's daily and weekly information to the guardians in Google Classroom.
But that's only a summary. It's a summary email. It doesn't, you know, give specific. And again, it's that kind of thing where you can't expect, as much as we're like in a shared open space and, you know, someone should be there. It's not realistic, I think, for parents to be there 24/7 with their child. And that's why they're worried about it, because they're not, you know, if they walk past in passing and see them doing it, they'll respond. But yeah, it's becoming a bit of an issue. Yeah.
I like what Ralph said, though, about the guardian summaries. That's something that we found super helpful at our school, was that if the teachers were quite specific and detailed with the tasks that they were setting in Google Classroom, parents would understand what the activity set was for X time. So then we were encouraging parents to check in with their children at the end of the day and say, hey, show me what you worked on today. And then they can have that discussion to see if the screen time was meaningful and if the activities were completed or not. So that's one idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we came up with a whole separate system, like where we have a Google Sheet that's updated. Teachers put in their lessons in their own tabs, and then students make a copy of it once a week and to get the whole week's lessons. But if we had just done what you're talking about instead, if all the parents were definitely signed up as guardians and we did that, I feel like that would probably suffice. We already got a system and we kind of reinvented the wheel.
To be honest, what was said before about if you give a good step-by-step instruction in Google Classroom, I guess that the summaries make also sense. One of the best very simple trick by Alice Keeler was label your assignments with numbers.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. But I'm a bit ashamed of myself, as especially in my high school classes where I have project-based stuff more. I just intend to continue what I've explained at some moment, and then from the outside it looks like, oh, what's going on there? It's just a Google Meet link, and he says, let's continue where we stopped. And I agree, that's amateurish in these moments.
I mean, I just want to bring up a point I think is really key here from Adam. Parents are seeing their children as they are during school for the first time. And in some cases,
Very
they're
good
not
point.
seeing the students that they want. And, you know, they're seeing students who are distracted, or perhaps they're on other activities and things like that. And it can be challenging. So I think the parents have got supervision responsibility at home now, and they're not realizing how tricky and devious they possibly can be in some cases, according to this comment.
Yeah. It's hard because, you know, they're in a different situation than usual. And so even, I mean, you know, we have modes, you know, like you go home and you're in home mode, and then we're asking people to be in school mode at home. And so even students who might not be like that might be a little more like that, you know, right now. And so it's hard. It would be easy also for parents to think, oh my gosh, my kids should be in school because they're not like this in school, you know, even though they're not there to watch, you know. But,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the real thing about the connection and the screen time when we have live connection is about literally those relationships and connections, rather than task setting and presenting new information, which I think is better done on videos or with reading material. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked also what Neil made a comment earlier about the students wanting to interact with their teachers a lot more. And I know like Adriana talked about that on the last week's episode a lot. And it kind of brings us to our next point about digital versus analog, and where is that balance, and will that actually help the screen time issue? So how do you feel that teachers are handling that balance? Because clearly we have some comments from the viewers saying that it's a lot of digital, also some teachers from my school. So where are we at? Where could we take it? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think from my point of view, I teach computer science, so that balance is 100% digital. But I do think the timetabling needs to be, you get 45 minutes and then you're strongly encouraged to take a screen break. And I think that kind of needs to be emphasized, is that you have that time, and then we are saying it is a screen break and you should stop. And me as a teacher, I'm doing that as well, because I know how draining it would be if I didn't take those times off between and actually just look away from the screen for those 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that as a teacher, it's been easier in the way that you can take breaks quite frequently and things like that between. But I have been teaching the whole full length of the time. I mean, you know, it has been the full periods I normally teach, and all synchronously.
We normally
sorry,
go ahead. No, okay.
You go.
Okay. We normally have 70-minute periods with 5-minute breaks, and so we have reduced our schedule to 50-minute periods. And one of the things, like, honestly, because I mean, I think some teachers thought, okay, we need to be on for 70 minutes. If you've got a 70-minute class, we need to be on, and we can't do that, right? But we don't need to be on the whole time. We don't need to be, you know, connected online. But I
We
kind of
should be
miss
available
that. Right. Well, I wish we still had 70-minute periods, and I would know that my kids are still focused on my class for that length of time, because the implication is, okay, they're going to do some other 20 minutes on their own time management skills later. But anyway, one of the reasons for having a shorter schedule with 50-minute periods was to incorporate 10 minutes between classes instead of 5. And the idea was that would be to get your eyes off the screen. I don't know how much students are sticking to that, but that was part of the thought behind that schedule.
I'd say the nicest things that I've seen with these Google Meets that I ran with the grades 2s and the grade 4s was they would bring things to share, and all of them were made. So this week they've been making board games to play with their family for board games night. Today was making a crazy hat. So they were like, you know, showcasing the hats. Some of them had robots that they'd brought along to show. And all of it was just stuff that they'd done off screen. So although the work was set, obviously, through Google Classroom or CES or anything like that, they'd then gone away, shut off the screen and gone and done that. And some of them, you know, what we're talking about, parent influence and stuff like that, most parents seem to like the fact that they can just get on with the task. But then there are some parents where the children were like, my mum made this hat, now she's making me wear it. You know,
Yeah.
you think,
Nice.
Mom, we're not homeschooling you. Yeah, so those are the best ones.
I love that the parents want to get involved. I mean, obviously, we like the students doing their own work, right? But
Yeah.
I have to say, I love that the parents want to be involved with education. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add that often it is, sadly, even if we send them off screen, we have to tell them to document it somehow. So most of the times there's a phone involved, which they have to look at then again, and it's a bit of screen time, but just get them out of their seat, maybe even to the fresh air. At the moment, Bangkok air quality is good. I don't know how it is in your cities. But not outside too much away from your home. You can't go. But so if you have tasks, which I haven't included too much, where they have to get out of their seat and draw something, or like you said, in primary, there's so many cool things. With high school, it's more difficult, but then engage them in projects or data collection or something.
I really like that. Gary, how's it going with your teachers? How are they trying to find balance? I put Gary on the spot. I'm not nice. Do you want to go first, Gary?
Do you need some thinking time?
I was just going to say that we did Easter. I didn't do it, but I heard another teacher talking about decorating Easter eggs. Was something that they did, you know, so the students they definitely worked offline for that, but then they got to share the product, and that turned out really well, apparently.
Yeah.
That's really cool. We also lowered our lessons down to 40-minute lessons with a 15-minute reflection time, which could be non-device time. And then they had a 5-minute to go between the lessons. We found that really helpful for teachers also to be able to give live feedback during the lesson time, because then there was more non-teaching time. So that they could give feedback as they go. We're using live streams at my school. So we live stream for X amount of time the teacher needs to facilitate the content, and students are collaborating in a live Google Sheet or Google Doc or Jamboard in primary, and asking questions that way, and we're responding live through the live stream. So for example, some lessons I post the lesson, for example, and it's, okay, now you guys can go and create. And then the next lesson, if I find there's a lot of questions, I might offer the live stream to give that extra support. So it's not always full on. In creative media, I tried something new. So we're working with the Adobe suite for them to design and do prints and all of this. And we tried something new where instead of just getting on with the design tools, we had them do it on paper first. So I'm trying to go that extra mile of balancing that way. So yeah, so we sketched out on paper, and then we used the next lesson to create a print. And because not all students have access to the same tools, I gave them as many options as they could. So some of them did the print version in Google Drawings, some of them used InDesign, some of them used Adobe Illustrator. There's also the Auto Draw app. So it's whatever was available. And actually, they liked that flexibility. I had good feedback. So that's one way we did it.
Just thinking about this, back in the 90s, there was a method called the Pomodoro method, which says that you should spend about 30 minutes and then do 5 minutes break. And I think it's something we should definitely think about with screen time, because they do need to refocus the eyes. And it was definitely a techie thing. But I think, you know, PlayStation bizarrely recommend actually 20 minutes break in the hour. Although they don't enforce it, but they certainly say it. And Nintendo certainly said, it's time to take a break now.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you how you feel, how you can judge your class's participation or attention levels. Because in high school, we are a school which has small class sizes, which can be very good. But sometimes I feel I ask a question in the room, and there are like 5 or 8 people online, and there's silence, just silence. And I ask again, and there's silence, and I just feel like a fool, you know. And there have been videos around where you see a teacher losing it, and they record their screen. So whenever I'm on a meet, I always, you know, the phone is out so quickly, you know, and they record it. So I always try to be very professional and calm, but I find it at times very difficult to get them to engage and give me feedback.
I feel like that silence on a big group video chat is more intimidating. The ice reforms very quickly in that scenario. Like normally there's a language issue. We're trying to keep our kids speaking English in the classroom, and it's just they're not speaking at all. There's not like they're not getting that's not really much of an issue unless they're like in a breakout room. Then they might break out into that, but it's like in the big room. No.
If the camera is not, you don't even know, like, are they there or are they sleeping or?
Oh, are you saying do you have a camera on? You don't have a camera on, like policy or something?
I have to check now. I'm not completely sure, but yes, we agreed that the camera has to be on so we can interact.
Sure.
And I have been a bit lenient sometimes with that.
Yeah. But
do you offer them the option of chat? So, like, if they feel uncomfortable giving their answer on screen, can they put it in the chat?
With one class, I did that, and they used it very well. That was younger. It was a middle school class, grade 6. You know, so grade 6, they're not. Some of the grade 8 students are just, you know, they don't want to be there in real class. Yeah. Now they're at home. So
I mean, I use Google Class. I still use Google Classroom together with Zoom or Google Meet, and I actually just ask the questions in Google Classroom, and
you do one of those official questions things.
Yes. Yeah. And that gets the participation right up. And I also use it for register, because that Google Classroom is brilliant because it tells you who answered and who didn't. Well, if you didn't answer, you ain't there.
Gotcha. Cool.
Simple as that.
It's really good, James. We have a few teachers using the question for register in the morning too. So it's super helpful.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everybody's going to answer a question. But the other thing is, normally you can ask a much more interesting question than, are you here?
Right.
You can ask something that you can actually get feedback, or you can actually check in on them. And I've found it super useful, and it saved me so much time doing registers. I've heard some people are taking like 10, 20 minutes to do a register.
Sorry, James, but for me, the question is, are you here? That's one of the most important questions as a teacher to the student, but it's just to be funny here now.
Yeah. No, but that's the point. You see, you can answer that question and, of course, then answer the following question. So, of course, we as teachers need to know that students are present and that they're okay at home. And I think that's important. But there are many great ways to ask it rather than just ask in Zoom and apparently go around 30 or 40 people, I've heard. But those are straight from the internet. So
I tell my students to raise their hand if they're not here. And that
works really well. 100% attendance every time.
Totally. Yeah.
We found that with the live stream that there's sometimes like up to a 10-second lag. So my tip to our teachers has always been like, just have something that you'd like to talk about on the topic while you're waiting for people to document in the chat, whether that be in the Google Classroom post or a sheet or a chat inside the Meet, just in case that happens. And I also found when I reached out to my year 10s, that they actually were like, hey, Seti, welcome.
Hello. Carry on.
Okay. That they were actually pretty sleepy. So it's been interesting conversation about the time of day as well, and when students want to be interacting. So when we think about engagement, what times of the day do we find they're engaging most? And I found that, you know, maybe not until 10 or 11 or higher were they actually more intrigued to participate. I don't know if you guys have found that as well or not.
Well, and that also kind of points to a possible issue with sleep patterns, because it just if students can be in class within 5 seconds of waking up, then they may feel at night, oh yeah, 3 a.m. is achievable. I can, and I mean, my kids are probably staying up till that late anyway, just because they were studying. Like there's this super high pressure in Korea. But then maybe it's 5 a.m. I feel like our students are admitting that there's some sleep problems that are exacerbated by this whole situation.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point that you're both making there, because I think what we often forget is with this whole situation, I think so many families, their routines have just gone out the window.
Yeah.
They are stressed beyond what, like, we often think about the students, but are we forgetting the parents as well?
Yeah.
They're under
And
a lot
the
of
teachers.
pressure as well. They're going through things. They're now having to, work from home. Routines have gone out the window. Everything is different. It might be 9 a.m. in the morning, but then in their head it's 11 because they had a late night, and so everything is just all jumbled up. I mean, we just had a week off just this week, and if you asked me what day it was, I would have said Tuesday. Guaranteed, I would have said Tuesday.
Yeah,
But it's
every day.
Thursday.
Yeah.
So it's. I think we need to remember that. And when we're setting tasks, one of the biggest feedback we got from parents was it's too much work and there's no routine. And so we started sending out some guides as to, look, this is how you could schedule your day, and just little things like that. I mean, that really helped them. Like even just a template of, here's a schedule, plan something in. I'm going to do this work, then I'm going to take a break. I'm going to do this work, and then we're going to have lunch. And even just the act of writing that down, a bit like if you remember when we all went to school, where we had to write everything down in our agenda, step by step. But it helps, especially when they're at home, because we have that structure of schools, and we have those, those teachers that come and go, and the bell goes, and it's lunchtime, and it's playtime, and you don't have that at home.
Yeah.
So some kids probably work non-stop for like 7 hours.
I mean, I do think one of the big things about the synchronous learning that we did that was really helpful was we said there's no extra work on top of the lesson, number one. And number two, it did give a routine. And I think those are two critical things that really help.
It's a really good point you bring up, James, which was next on my list to talk about, can we find a bigger balance with screen time between synchronous and asynchronous? And should we be balancing both of them during the week? What do you guys think?
You mean a combination of synchronous and
Yeah,
asynchronous? Okay.
yeah.
I think the combination is probably best, but it also depends on the subjects, because some subjects lend them, like for example, when I'm sharing stuff to do with the makerspace, obviously that's going to be asynchronous. Like I'm there as a drop-in, I'm available, but that's a lot more upfront, and then it's off you go and you start doing your you start designing your creation or your solution. Other subjects, I'm thinking English, geography, or it's a combination of both probably, where you have a shorter session, synchronous, everyone's there and you're giving them some input, but then off you go, and I'm available. I'm not going anywhere, but you do not have to stay here, and use your time productively. Don't just sit, because I mean, I remember I had a 50-minute session, and I only gave sort of the first 15 minutes was input, and then the rest was sort of them working on it. And some kids just sat there thinking, I have to stay in the session for the entire 50 minutes. I was like, no, don't waste your time. Go get on with it. I'm here for another hour. If you have to, just come back into the meeting room. It's open for another hour. I'm here. If you have a question, pop back in, ask me that question. I'll help you. And then off you go, offline, get on with your work. And it's
I did a lot of drop-ins where people could come in and out, and then they can mute their mics and everything. But I think knowing your teacher is going to be on hand to answer questions, and then they would speak up, which is great because they know that they're going to ask their question and be able to speak up. But I think you have to change to the more traditional, here's your input, which could be, and it is, the one thing I will tell you is it's not a good idea to try and present big complex stuff live. If you're going to do that, put that on a video. Even if you say, watch the video and then come back to me, because I think
that's always first 5 minutes of every live session. I go, look, did you watch the video that was shared with you on Monday? No. Could you do me a favor? Get out of this meeting room, go watch that video, and then come back in. because it's
Yeah.
just,
I love
it
that.
allows them to pause it, and otherwise you're just repeating yourself over and over and over and over.
Yeah. What I'm finding as well in my IT lessons online, it's the same children anyway who would need the support in the classroom who are staying or coming back to me. So even though we've gone online with a lesson, I've got the same children who are like, yep, just stop talking now so I can get on with what I need to do. They're doing that in the class anyway. Off they go. See you later. Then you've got those ones that need to be reassured and a few questions, and then they're off. And then you've got your little core group, and it's pretty much the same structure as it would be in the class anyway. They have really
That's
moved
interesting,
on.
because we've seen it the other way around. We've seen sort of the ones that are incredibly active and really like jumping into every meeting room, meeting with every single teacher, are the ones that we're actually a bit worried about during school time.
Oh,
and then the ones
really?
that were sort of no worries, they're always front of the class, answering questions, getting on with their work. They've disappeared. They're just like, where have they gone?
Just creating.
I like what you said. Oh, go ahead, Ralph.
Sadly, we have also in the third week of we finished the third week of teaching, and like a few students were just lost. They were not ever there, and even talking to their parents, and just they didn't get the support from home. It was only two or a few, but it's sad. If as a teacher you think, is he ever coming back? Or is it too late, or what is happening? But that is usually an exception. But for me, it's still, again, I say it again, I repeat myself again. I with high school students, if I let them go to do their own work, some don't care, just don't do their work.
We do make we differentiate between students that have not shown up for live sessions or those students that are not submitting any work. So for example, there's some that, let's say this week, they didn't show up to my live. Okay, but they've done everything they had to do. They've submitted all their work and it was of a high standard. Okay, well, that's very different from that student that hasn't done any work and nobody's seen that student. Then I would be worried. So we keep a simple Google Sheet where we just make sure that every student checks in at least once a day with one teacher. So we're all on the same sheet, and we just put our initials, and we make sure that everyone checks in at least once a day. The tutors in the morning, they have to check in. That's mandatory. But in addition to that, we do expect to see them at least pop into one drop-in session a day. If they don't show up for mine and they show up for James's, great. They're fine. We know they're doing okay, and at least one of the teachers have been able to check in with them. I am keeping on top of, are they actually submitting work? Because that's separate. That's something else.
We're doing a similar thing. We have like a students of concern Google Sheet, and then teachers can pop in any students that they feel normally are engaged and participating and doing work that maybe are not. And then we are doing calls home. Like we have, how you have like your conference days every half term or whatnot. So we're doing that every couple of weeks, where we are going off timetable, and every form tutor or class teacher is calling home every student every couple of weeks. So we found that that's been really nice for well-being, just to show that we care about the kids, and it's able us to reach out to the ones who maybe aren't participating as much. So that's been something really good. And I liked what Seti said about are you watching your video before coming to the lesson? It brings us back to flipped classroom, right, guys? And how often have we been trying to do flipped classrooms in the class? And now it's kind of like, well, students may need to take that on a lot more, right? So, and what's leadership doing about that? What have you found has been positive or negative? How have leadership been responding to these concerns, specifically even with screen time, since that's the topic for today? Have leadership decided to change the schedules? Like some of us have said in our viewers that the timetable is lessened a little bit. What are leadership choosing to do to support that?
Our leadership has been amazing. They've been, from day one, really, they've been on top of it. They've been checking in, not just checking in sort of are you doing the work? They've been checking, like, are you okay? Because a lot of our teachers are also expat teachers, and they might be all by themselves in a tiny little condo. So they've been really good at sort of making sure everyone's all right. And then in terms of the workload and screen time, surveys, like after week one, send out a survey to every student, but then also every parent separately. So we got the feedback very early on. And 2 weeks in, another survey. Now, after week 4, we had a week off for the Easter break. So we had a week off now. We're in that week. Management has written up reports about their engagement online and how they've been, and they've sent them out to all parents. So they've been amazing. They've done a lot of extra work, and they've gone above and beyond. So yeah, I mean, it's been very interesting to see that.
So more communication has definitely been helpful for your leadership.
Absolutely. And I mean, we as teachers have drop-in sessions as well. So they've actually organized sort of phase leaders are meeting, and then there's sort of a whole school drop-in session where everyone just jumps onto a meet, and we're just having a 20-minute rant or chat, or just and that makes all the difference for teachers, really.
Good. Yeah, my school organised a staff quiz this afternoon, 3 to 4, for people to jump in and stuff.
That happened as well. We had a Friday pub quiz online.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. I think that's a nice thing
We had a
to do.
scavenger hunt today. Some folks made a scavenger hunt. It's like there's a sort of a committee. We have a bunch of task forces that are dedicated to different things, and so there's one that's like the health and safety task force. So it's just basically management was just overloaded, with this situation. And so one task force, I don't remember what it's called, but I think they are dealing with well-being and state of mind, and they I think they organized the treasure hunt that was today that I missed because I was in class, but they're going to do them at different times. So.
And the other thing that they've done, which was really good, is combined students and teachers and have like these mass events. So every week there's a different mass participation event. So we've had an art one where everyone created a piece of art and then jumped onto a meet and shared it. And so teachers got involved, students got involved. It's all optional. Nobody has to do this, but obviously, a lot of people are very interested in it. Now we're in the middle of an English one. So every teacher records themselves reading a fictional story about the school, and we each make up 1 minute and then pass it on to another teacher, and they all get stitched together, and then students can jump in and hop on. And so it's just every week there's a different one. Our PE department had another one where we had the burpee challenges, and you film yourself doing the challenge and how many can you do in a minute, and the students join in, and my son joined in, and it was that's what really brings the community together, I think.
Cool.
These ideas are super inspiring. Go ahead, Gary, or was it James? Sorry.
I'd like to ask Seti, because he mentioned earlier that there are surveys conducted by the admin. So with this survey, did you change anything with from the previous week to the next one?
Absolutely. I mean, the surveys, if it wasn't for those surveys, we would be on the exact same timetables and using the same system now as we were in week 1, but we've used a different one in week 2, and then we tweaked it, and then a different one in week 3. So we reduced the workload. The way it was delivered, it was sort of all the students and all parents agreed that live drop-ins were really helpful, because some teachers were available in chat only. That was feedback after week 1 was very clear. We don't want that. We want the teacher to be there. We want to be able to talk to the teacher. So we made that change. And then instead of being available in chat for an hour, we're available in a meet room for an hour, but they can still pop in. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Then those teachers were asked could you please just maybe, open a room and, get that face-to-face, even though it's digital, get that face-to-face connection. That change was made, received students were really happy about that, parents as well. Then the following week, there was some more feedback about the types of activities. So we also asked questions in terms of, so far in the last 4 weeks, what have been your favorite activities and why? Why have these been your favorite activities? But we asked that same question to the students and the parents, because obviously a lot of these parents are very hands-on, others might not be. So we want to make sure that our parents are aware of what's happening and what have been their favorite activities. And so trying to find that balance, because we don't want to give parents extra work, but we also don't want to give the students extra work because the parents might not be supporting and they need a lot of help. So it's trying to balance it. And so, we've made a lot of changes, and we're probably going to, now next week we're back to it. It's changing again. And then we're going to do another survey and it's going to change again.
How long is the duration of each subject? And how many subjects
Again,
do you have?
it depends on the subject, but we've got a dedicated timetable for the online learning. So we've basically scrapped everything we had, and we've built a brand new timetable. So it's a reduced workload. We're only online till 12:30. After that, we're still available.
That's great.
Because our hours are till 3:30. But that's email. So we're available by email, but online, that's 12:30. And after that, your afternoon, use it to get your work done, use it to ask your questions, and just get offline as much as possible.
So we and for the students as well.
Yeah. And we have a reduced timetable. That is, so for me as both a teacher and a parent, is basically morning is I'm teaching online, and then afternoon I'm doing the the actual work that was set.
The only thing I would say, Cynthia, is I like all the things that you're saying, but I mean, we made some changes at school from feedback and things like that, but then the following week they were looking to make more changes, and it was like, whoa, the teachers hadn't kind of had a chance to embed what they were doing, so they had to kind of backtrack a wee bit, because, and we found out as well that the grades weren't talking to each other. So, you know, you're getting that situation where mum was saying, well, in grade 2 they do that, but in grade 4 they're not. Why aren't they doing that? You know, and it's like, well, they haven't had a chance to discuss what each of the grades are doing. And we definitely didn't want to make it that you all have to do the same all through the grades.
Yeah, well, that's where, I mean,
now as we go, we kind of think, well, we don't have to make it the same, but there needs to be similar elements. So if they're getting a live chat with their teacher in one grade, then we need to kind of build that into another grade.
But ours is very different for the different key stages. So every meeting, so there's been frequent meetings for key stages. And obviously the way things are, like what I'm saying now, is very much key stage 3. Key stage 2, it's different. It's more asynchronous. They have a different timetable. They have a couple of different drop-in sessions, shorter lives, and it's more live teaching. But it's different for the different key stages. And because we had a good 2-3 weeks to prepare before we actually closed, we've been able to have, so we had a whole bunch of meetings and trainings during those weeks that the school was still open before we shut, just to prepare, because we knew this is coming. And so we did that. And then now that the changes are being made, they are being made slowly. I mean, obviously, if you look at it, the entire school, yes, a lot of changes are coming in. So for someone who teaches, let's say, early years all the way up to key stage 3, for that teacher, it's going to be a lot of changes. That's going to be, because obviously they have to put on their early years. Early years is doing this now. Oh, okay, so they've added this onto, because they didn't have any live drop-ins, and then they've added those in, and so they've added in things. Middle school, they've added some changes, but more to the workload. And then in key stage 3, we've made a lot of changes just from student feedback, especially because we want to make sure that, you know, the students are engaged and that we're actually keeping on top of it.
Great. So a couple other ideas to think about for screen time before we end the session today was because we have to think about, guys, we're in the 21st century, right? So most students around the world are also using their screens outside of education. So then we went into remote learning, and students are being asked now to use their devices more for learning. So how can we, you know, what kind of tips can we provide parents and educators, those educators that are parents also, on how to balance as a whole, because they're also stuck at home. So what do they want to do? They want to watch a movie, play video games, and this is all part of screen time, right? So how could we support? What kind of tips do we have for everybody out there as to how they can really find a balance with all of that?
Well, one thing is, like, I personally like reading, right? But I say that, but if I've got a book and a computer, I'm going to be putting the book down and I'm going to be looking at the computer. However, because I have my classes, then I instituted reading time in my classes, and then I get all this reading time. It's really great. So I just a little bit at the beginning of every class, and I get to do that for every class, and I read so many books, and it's wonderful. So because of the purpose that I have for them, I get the benefit of that too. And so parents often ask me in parent-teacher conferences, what can I do? What's the best thing I can do? And reading, I mean, geez, reading is so good for your reading skills, speaking skills, and your writing skills. And I'm like, maybe, crazy idea, you could set time for your kids to read, and you could read next to them.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
you know, even just a few minutes a day would be really great. And you never can tell that there's one time there might be some really great book. I focus a lot on selection. It's like keep on with the goal that you're going to find a book you like or that you hate less, and then you hate one less than that one, and maybe it actually, and so then maybe sometime you'd be like, okay, your time's up, and they would still be reading. It could happen. I've seen it happen, and
Definitely.
that could happen now. Just saying.
Yeah.
It's like when you get those questions, why doesn't my child want to read? Well, do you enjoy reading? No, I hate it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's maths for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, again, with the parent who said she's really stressed out about what can she do for a child. And I actually said, get a lockable cupboard and lock all the devices away, including you, mum and dad, and just have that detox time. Because, you know, she's probably on her phone. She's probably, you know, doing her work, that kind of thing. And if you're going to model it for your child, you're going to say, I like that. 12:30, we're all done. We're going to have lunch together. Then, you know, you don't have to school it, but you're saying nobody's on a device. That includes a television. So you're not spending the afternoon watching TV. You know, you are locking them away, and you're all going off somewhere in the house and doing something that doesn't involve technology. She hasn't replied back to me, by the way. Probably got to someone. That was a dumb suggestion.
I remember when we ran the Media Mentors Month, and just creating like a device-free room or multiple device-free rooms. Why not? It's such a basic concept that you say, okay, well, let's say, you know, kitchen, bedroom, there's no devices in here. They don't come in. When we're in the kitchen or that's the place where we eat, there's no device that comes in here. Well, automatically what's going to happen? Nobody's playing on their phone while they're eating. So everyone's having a conversation. And same with the bedroom. There's no devices. It's, you know, bedrooms for, you know, leisure, relaxing, end of the day. We had a tiny little spare office, which obviously, I know not everyone has that, but a tiny little spare office. We turned it into a library. We've got a home library now. That has been such a gift to both our kids, because we had books. Every room has always had books. That's just been, I think I said that to Adriana before, because we love books. My wife loves books. Kids we all love books. But then we said, well, what if we take this a step further now? Like, we've got this tiny little room. It's like a little home. Let's just turn it into a library. So we did it. And now the kids are like, I want to go to the library room. Yeah, cool. Let's go.
Nice.
And it's just
brilliant.
And they know. The
grade twos did it really good. The first activity they did in the first week was create a workspace. And so, you know, they did their little Flipgrid videos of all their things that they had on their workspace and stuff. And then it was that they put on the timetable, leave your workspace. You know,
so they had the first thing.
And you know, this is work. This is the rest of the home. You know, and we do it as adults.
Any book, any self-help book, or any, you know, online YouTube guru, or anyone that talks about working from home, or the first two things is, one, get a dedicated space. Keep work separate from home. Have a space where you do your work. This could be a corner, it could be a seat, it could be a table, but it has to be separate from everything else. And then number two, block your time. Plan it. Block it out. And when it says time to go, go. Just get up and go.
Same here. In my case, we have the afternoon to work on schoolwork. And then before going to bed, we have the reading time, and movie time will be before dinner or after dinner. And then, just like what you've done, we have a specific. We have a lot of the space for schoolwork, for our individual work. So they know that when we're here, we'll do our schoolwork or other works, and then when it's afternoon, you have to do other things. So same thing. Lunchtime, dinner time, or when you're in the kitchen or dinner table or in the dining table, no gadgets, because it's basic. But not everyone knows these small things, but these are all important things to do because we have to model it.
Absolutely. We have also no devices at dinner so that we can actually chat. Although my husband's a machine learning engineer, so that's like our real sacred side. A little harder. I wanted to comment on the books, Eric. That was really awesome idea. So something new that I've taken up since Christmas was audiobooks. My husband got me hooked on it. And I found that I've read way more books in the last 3 months than I have in the last 2 years, just by listening to audiobooks while I'm preparing the food or cleaning the house. So if children or parents want to zone out and still get that love of reading, that's something that they could possibly look into doing. It's not necessarily screen time, right? But it's still getting that me time, that zone out time, and that enrichment.
And Audible's free now at the moment. They have a huge selection.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anyone's not using it, you don't even have to register. You can just go to the website and get the books. So
it's really, really great. And what about the screen time for parents, guys, especially focused with the younger students? Would you say that there's any one device over another, or something in particular that you found really well that could help parents to control the screen time for their children at home? What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a tricky one. I think a lot of it has to do with modeling as well, because I mean, we've got a 3-year-old, and if I put devices in front of him, he won't go for them. He'll just go for the books. He has no interest in them. But I think that's also because we only use them when they have, like, for a purpose. For example, the iPad, like both our sons, they know that there's multiple iPads in the house, but they're only used when we're actually trying to get something done or do some work, and then they're tucked away. They're not just a toy. They have toys, they have books, and then these devices is more work related. The same goes for the Chromebook, the computers. Like, for example, this desk is where my 7-year-old will do his work. There's a computer screen there, but he knows that screen is only to give him information, and then he'll use that. And he's not even tempted to start clicking around and to start doing other things, just because that's a habit, and it's sort of, I think it's in part it's also because we've always been very careful about it. So when we went to restaurants, we never brought devices. Whenever we go out, we bring books or drawing paper or an Etch-a-Sketch, or we don't bring devices as pacifiers. Never. A device is for work.
Yeah, I really love that. I think that it is all about modeling. And I think that I think that it's also related to culture. Maybe Adriana can back me up a bit, because we were working in Egypt together before. And it's about how people in different parts of the world are used to using devices, right, guys? And here in the Middle East, I was in Egypt and Jordan now. It's more like a babysitter for a lot of parents. So our family here are really struggling with, I can't handle this, and here's a device, and there you go. So I think it's a cultural thing too. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think it's similar here in the Philippines, that the gadgets are becoming pacifiers or babysitters. Well, a lot of
here
parents,
as well. I mean, it's all over the world, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
it's new and it's easy, because you could either spend half an hour negotiating with your child, or you give them an iPhone.
Yeah.
I see
And if you do that enough times, it becomes a habit, and then that habit is incredibly difficult to break. Whereas if you make a conscious decision that, okay, I'm going to welcome this half an hour discussion, and we're going to use this to actually explain why, no, you should not be doing this at this moment, and this is why. Like, for example, at a restaurant, jumping up and down on the chairs. Well, okay, some parents might look at you and give you some angry looks, but then when you look back, you see they've got 5 kids, and all 5 of them are on an iPad. Well, no judgment there. Like, let us deal with our kid, and then you deal with yours. Let's see how they turn out in about 10 years. But
remember when you go to a restaurant and you used to get like coloring pencils and things to draw and stuff like that.
We've
and when
still
you
got that. I love it.
When you have
I
that,
love
or
it.
you go out with friends and they've got that, and you're like, that's so retro.
Yeah. Or like mum's secret bag, and there's always something in mum's bag. There's either coloring pencils, or there's dinosaur just out of the
Yeah.
bag, and there's suddenly a dinosaur on the table.
The best mums are the one with snacks.
to
They
entertain
always
you.
carry snacks. Those are the best mums.
What's that, Ralph?
You have to have some creative toys with you. It starts from a very young born where you have a rattle. And if you don't take this rattle to a 10-year-old, which is not a rattle anymore and shouldn't be always, but if it is a drawing or note sketchbook or a photo camera to take photos, even, you know, any form of creativity or an outlet for that.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Basic
It's like
pen and
that.
paper.
Yeah, go ahead, Sati.
No, I would say I absolutely, like, even just pen and paper. Like, you know, the little papers that you write your order on, just give them to. Here.
Yeah.
Can you? And
Many
they love
times.
it. They love it.
The beer mat. You find something to do. If there's nothing, you have to.
That's what we used to do. That's what we did
Well,
in
when you
Europe.
take
You
your
know, all
kids to
those
the pub.
the beer coasters, and you're constantly drawing
they
on
get
them.
bored at the pub. Give them the beer mats to
I'm
colour
from
in.
Bavaria, my dear Adriana. We don't go to the pub. We go during the day. We go in the beer garden.
During the day, you go for the food.
We can start it.
Totally, just for food. Yeah.
So there are some great websites out there too for our viewers and educators and parents if they're interested to find out about screen time and balancing things online. There are lots of different places. Common Sense Media is one that offers a huge amount of resources. And they also offer content that is approved for age-appropriate content that can be shared with their students or children if you're a parent. So definitely check those out. Do you guys have one you want to shout out as a tip or tool for parents and educators as well?
Yeah, definitely Common Sense Media for anything, because I often get even cinema questions where parents will go like, oh, I want to take my son or my daughter to this film. Is it appropriate? Type it into the search on Common Sense and let's have a look at what parents say, what teachers say, and then you can make that decision. So I love Common Sense Media.
Yeah,
Yay.
definitely. Yeah.
I guess my big tip for everybody too would be the blinking. It wasn't actually until I learned from my husband that one of the big issues with screen times is that your eyes don't blink. So he was explaining to me, I don't know if you guys heard that before, and don't quote me because I'm not a doctor, but yeah, that women blink a lot more often than men do was number one. And that usually when you're focused on a screen, your eyes don't blink at all. So they try to remember. My husband said, Georgina, set your timer on your watch to notify you every 15, 20 minutes to blink because your eyes don't remember to blink.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good tip. I like that.
Yeah, that's my little tip. Just because your eyes get dehydrated. And actually, before we closed down, I went to the pharmacy and bought some eye drops. And honest to goodness, on days where I found that my eyes were sore, I put some eye drops in and immediately I was like, oh, wow, really refreshing. So it might have some truth to that, guys. The hydration, your eyes don't hydrate if you don't blink.
Yeah.
Good. I like it.
Now we have to blink.
And I'm going to go back and watch this video and count. That's what I'm going to do. Okay.
There you go.
Zoom in on your eyes. I wasn't
totally.
blinking.
That's awesome.
Okay.
So thanks for the chat today about screen time, guys. I guess our final message is do your best to balance and balance is key. I hope everybody agrees for educators, for staff, for parents who want to try and balance the screen time and the non-screen time. So thanks to our viewers for watching. Anybody want to shout out before we go?
Bye.
All fun.
Okay.
I'd like to invite everyone to GEG APAC Weekend Live happening on April 17 to 19. So look for GEG APAC Weekend Live. Okay?
Okay,
Right
cool.
Yay. Awesome. Well, have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Okay. Bye, everyone.